How's everybody doing? Tonight, on our vodka one, we have a little Breckenridge vodka from where? Breckenridge, Colorado. Yeah, I've been to Breckenridge. It's fine. I'm not really a snow person, chalet drinker. More of that. I like it in the fall. That's when I like it, before the snow, before it's cold. Delicious little screwdriver. Weird at this time of day, but what's weird anymore? Define weird. Now, we've got Tanya running wild with Merle Haggard to get over the fact that Glenn Campbell accidentally got his wife pregnant. And so now she can't be with Glenn. Well, at least not for the time being. Let's see if that works out a different way, which I think it does. She's out with Merle, but she's so enamored she doesn't even want to have sex with him. She just can't believe she's on Merle Haggard's tour bus, which I bet a lot of people would feel the same way. I must have sounded like a refugee from Music Journalism 101 to Merle Haggard. We spent the next 4 or 5 days on the road playing guitars, drinking, singing, and raising hell in general. It only took a day before Merle knew I was there for the music and the party, not for the sex. We fooled around some, but for some reason I couldn't bring myself to actually have sex with him. Maybe it's because he was Merle Haggard, or maybe I was still smarting over Glenn. Whatever the case, I just couldn't do it. Merle was scheduled to stop in Meridian, Mississippi, Jimmy Rogers' hometown, for a meeting with PV Amps, whom he had a product endorsement. We stopped by and went into Lindball's for a beer before his meeting. My father loves Jimmy Rogers music, and it's sacred, but it was Merle singing it that got me hooked on the Train Man. I have no idea who that person is, but I'm going to Google it. Who's the Train Man? I felt like I was directly linked to country music's past that afternoon. I sat there in that historic bar with this connection to music history, and thought, man, this must be like sitting at Tootsie's talking to Hank Jr. about his dad. Then Merle decided he didn't want to go visit PV after all. Man, you can't just blow them off. They're paying you money. I sounded like Bo Tucker, that's her father, talking to Tanya. Now we're in third person. This is getting weird. Merle grumbled a little bit, but he went to his meeting anyway. Rolling around in the country on a bus can be great. And when I had the chance to do it with Merle Haggard, it was out of sight. I still love bus trips on many levels. Me too, because just the rocking of that bus will put you right to sleep. It's very calming till some jackass bus driver slams on the brakes. And then everybody in the whole bus flies forward. And then everybody goes, Jesus. Then usually it's Ron going, Jesus, Pat, learn how to drive. It's not really Pat's fault. Pat's a good driver. Just saying that for the record. Pat's my friend. I still love bus trips on many levels. Falling asleep in the back. That's exactly what I said. In the back of the bus when it's raining, it can be the most peaceful thing in the world. Or maybe it's nostalgia from my childhood spent in trailers. There was such a wonderful feeling of self-containment when you step onto a tour bus and close the door behind you. Whatever problems you have seem to fade away with the sound of the wheels rolling down the highway and the side of the towns looming ahead, and then you just get lost in the distance. That feeling of safety can turn on you, of course. I never felt that way. There's some except for flying forward. There's some problems that will always be waiting on you when the ride is over. Whew. On the trip with Merle, what I enjoyed most was music. The party aspects were overshadowed by the experience of spending that many days listening to one of country music's greatest legends sing his songs. I love so many of them. If We Make It Through December is one of my favorites because it reminds me so much of our family while I was growing up. That song nails it. That feeling of wanting to be able to give your family a Christmas and knowing you'll be lucky to keep the heat turned on in the house. Merle told me he later wrote his 1983 hit, What Am I Gonna Do For You? What Am I Gonna Do For the Rest of My Life, about me? And I hope that's true. I did tell him I bet he'd never sing again. He'd never again sing that line. The last thing I needed was somebody messing with my mind without thinking about me. There's nothing that messes with a man's mind more than a woman who's just along for good times. They all figure you're going to fall all over yourself for them, especially stars. Well, Tanya didn't. But I do love Merle. And underneath my coming off like a party girl, I did fall all over myself for him. Sometimes I think I love Merle Haggard better than any of his wives, except Bonnie Owens. How many did he have? except Bonnie Owens, and I think she's the one who loved him best. I never was his wife, of course, but I do love him. I have a tape of one of Merle's television specials, and sometimes my kids and I watch it together. I'm continually telling them that anybody else who happens to be around, that the man they are watching is one of the greatest artists in any form of music. My daughter Presley and I love dancing together when Merle sings Working Man's Blues. My son Bo Grayson plays along with the drumsticks. I had a blast, and I wasn't even worried what my folks would think. Yeah, we've left them in the dirt for now. They probably don't even know she's out on Merle Haggard's bus, probably just calling hotel rooms, no answers. They figured I was still at the Winter Olympics. I figured that they thought I was still at the Winter Olympics. I thought wrong. Dad was on my trail thanks to George Jones. Oh, my God, now he's following her on the road. Oh, my God. George was playing a show at the Palomino in Los Angeles when Merle suggested we call him. Hell yes, I said, let's call Possum. That's George Jones's nickname because he looked like a possum. It's not very flattering. Now, you may think this is a lie, but I'd rather have a few drinks and start calling friends than almost anything in the world, and that includes sex. She loves to drunk dial and freely admits it. That's good for you. Once upon a time, I thought that it was great that there were no other Tanyas in country music. That was before Merle and I called up George Jones at the Palomino. Dad took Mother to see that show since George Jones is the #1 hero. After George finished his performance, my folks went backstage to say hello. While they were talking, a stagehand came up and said George had a call from Merle Haggard and that he could take it down the hall. A few minutes later, Mother and Daddy decided to say goodbye. Daddy walked down the hall to tell George they were leaving, and as soon as he was within earshot, he heard my name. And Tanya's there on the bus with you? Where'd you say you are? George hung up on us when he turned to find my daddy standing there with his mouth open. Good old Possum. Rather than admitting he knew anything, he shot out the back door and onto his bus. He called us from the bus and explained about the hang-up. I might have figured I couldn't run anything past my dad. At least in 20 years, I hadn't been able to do so. Dad went straight home and phoned a booking agent and asked him to try to find out Merle's tour schedule by the next morning. Fortunately, it took the guy a couple of days to track us down, and by that time, I was already on a plane back to L.A. Ha ha! By that time I left, Merle wasn't putting any rush on me. I don't think I wore very well on him. He was far too introverted and intense, and I'm too loud and rowdy for us to really go the different distance. Yeah, if he's an introvert, I'm sure he was like, maybe I shouldn't have let this lady on the bus this long. Maybe just like a day. It's a hard thing for me to admit, but I know I put my parents through hell back then and for more years to come. All they ever wanted for me was to be happy, and I got a lot. And as I got more out of line, they knew that even though I had a great time while I was out partying, I wasn't satisfied with my life. They had other worries at the time. Dad was having problems with his relationship with LaCosta, and that about killed him. She hadn't been able to stand being around Steve and Jerry at Far Out Management in the winter of 1977. Dad was managing her. Dad was being torn apart between worrying about me and my personal and career problems and my sister's career problems. Well, it's a lot going on in this family. Everybody's got problems. Sometimes they have cash on hand. Sometimes none. Daddy's chasing tour buses around trying to find out where that little floozy's at. With Glenn Campbell or Merle Haggard. All right, termites. What else do I have for you? Nothing. I wish I had something. My fox is coming every night, Lucy. It's very exciting. See some videos of her on Instagram. Somebody yelled at me because I threw a bone to her. The animal people always go crazy. Don't feed the wildlife. Animal control. There's no animal control where I live. I'm animal control. You're looking at her right here, this lady. It's nothing wrong. Give the fox a bone, right? Instead of the dog a bone, give the fox a bone. It's a nice little T-bone from a pork chop. All right, termites. What are you going to say to yourself? I'm a good termite. I'm a worthy termite. You may have to repeat that in these tough times like this. Because you can start to self-doubt yourself being locked up in your house too long. For the states that are locked up, many of you are not locked up. Many are running wild. And, we'll see what happens, how that game ends. I don't know. I'm staying inside because I want to stay healthy and I want to get back on the road as soon as possible. All right, termites, that's all I got for you. Give yourself a little termite kiss. Put yourself to bed.